Good evening, everybody. Sorry for the delay. Right, where's my Gemara? Oh, there it is. Oh, he's coming. He's on his way. Right. Oh, nice to see so. How's everybody doing? How's Yosef Chaim Rose? What are you going to call him? Yossi?
Joe.
Not Joe.
Joey.
Joey, okay.
Yossi when he goes to yeshiva.
What happens when he comes to Rosh Hashiva? Abusive.
Oh. Yeah.
Okay. We're up to Daf Kuf Lamed Tes Amud Beis. And we're up to about 6 lines from the top. Okay. Discussing various behaviors on Shabbos. Some of them also do Rabbanon, some do right, so we'll see. It says the word like this. Omar B'Ovin B'Rav Huna, Omar B'Chama B'Goya. Mis'atef Odom B'Kilo, U'B'Kas Kaseo, V'Yoytz V'Shusami B'Shabbos V'Nechoshesh. You're allowed to go in the street with a canopy, even if it's got strings hanging down, and you're not choshesh. Why? Because they're not important. Since they're not important, they're not considered a carrying, it's not considered a burden, right? Sometimes you carry a coat and it has a belt, and the belt is more for adornment, or it's just hanging there. So the question is it something which is a matter if you carry it or not? So he said it's okay. Let's say you've got a talis that's only got 3 tzitzis. On 3 corners it's got tzitzis, on the 4th it's got no tzitzis. Why chav chatos? Because you're carrying the strings. As well, tzitzis the gabi talis chashivi v'lei botli. They're important and not bottle. Hani lei chashivi v'botli. These are not choshev and can bottle. Meaning that when it's a choshev item, it's an important item, then it's not bottle. A person wants it; it's precious for the person. Mashenkin, something which is not important, the person ignores. So for it's bottled to the garment, and therefore it's okay. And this actually leads us to many different questions. A couple of weeks ago, one of the children bought a new coat, and they forgot on Shabbos it had the label on. So I had to remind of it in it. The Ma'aseh halacha is you can't walk on Shabbos with a label, because even though it's not that important, do a label which is the shop label, which you can see on the outside. Oh, you're allowed to put it off. The best way to do it is cut through the plastic string. Because that plastic string, there's no kriya for anything with it. It's not a sewing. So you cut off. You can cut off. There's no problem cutting off the plastic string, because you shouldn't carry with the label. The label is important. People are disturbed by it. People don't like it. And there's many other shilas, like buttons inside the jacket, which are sewn in, whether it's considered a button or not. Here the Gemara gives us just 2 examples. The strings of a canopy is okay. The tzitzis of a talis is no good. And you have to work out how to compare all the other ones to these particular cases. So you've got a talis, it's got 3 sets of tzitzis, not the 4th. So then it's not bottle, because a person thinks to himself, either I'll add a 4th, or I'll take them off and add them to another tzitzis. Therefore they're important. Let's go back around. We had in our Mishnah that if you've got a sieve, then you're allowed to pour wine into the sieve on Yom Tov, but you're not allowed to originally hang the sieve onto the keli. Why? Because it's a form of uvda dechur. So now he's got a trick of how to get past it. So a person is allowed to do a trick and hang a sieve on a keli on Yom Tov, to use it in order to hang on it, meaning to store on it as pomegranates. And then afterwards, you can just pour the wine and the sediments through it without a problem. But you have to first use it for the pomegranates before you pour the sediments. You can't just use it. We can't just say I'm doing it for pomegranates and then immediately go and use it for sediments. You actually have to use it for the pomegranates at some stage. Because otherwise, people realize that it's not, and you're doing it Tlias Mishmeros and Yom Tov, which is Uvda Dechur. Says the Gemara, the Bryce is like this. We're not allowed to do on the Chol HaMoed anything unless it's the Tzorech HaMoed. So you're allowed to make beer on Chol HaMoed for the sake of Chol HaMoed. And what happens is like this. The Braisa says, you're allowed to put the ingredients together for beer on Chol HaMoed for Chol HaMoed. But if it's for after Yom Tov, it is also. It makes a difference if it's beer made out of dates or beer made out of barley. So now, let's say you've got loads of beer in the house, but it's old beer and you want to make new. So what you can do is like this. You can pretend that you don't have any beer in the house and make a fresh batch of beer. And there we don't say that you have to do something to prove that it's not a trick. When you hang a sieve over a keli, what do we say? That you first have to use it for the pomegranates and only then use it for the sediments, because we're concerned that what will happen is people will realize you're just making a joke over here and that you're doing it for the sake of sediments, which is forbidden on Yom Tov. By beer, we don't require that of you. We don't say to you, do something to show that you want to use this beer. What we do is we say, even if you've got old beer, you can pretend that you want to use new one. Meaning, there, nobody, when the person sees you making beer on Chol HaMoed, what will they think? What's their immediate reaction? Is that you don't have any other beer. So when they see you making the beer, they'll think to themselves, you're doing it on Chol HaMoed. When a person sees you hanging a sieve over a keli, if you don't first use it to store pomegranates, then people will come to the conclusion that why are you doing it? You're doing it just for sieving. And they won't think you're doing it for pomegranates. So therefore over here it's much worse. And therefore unless you actually go ahead and use it for pomegranates, then people will realize that you're doing it for sieving and therefore it's forbidden. There was this time with Chacham. His name was Yehuda Steinberg. And this time with Chacham, what he used to do is, he would find tricks, he would find ways to get by halachas. And they were upset with him, and they would send over to Rav Ashi what this person used to do. One of the things he used to do was like this. The shokal border tumah, he would take a piece of garlic. If you've got a bowl of wine, and it's leaking, the tap is leaking. So what would you do if you've got a bowl of wine and the tap is leaking? Now you're not allowed to fix it. So what he used to do is he used to take a bit of garlic, stick it up the tap, that would block the tap, and then you're not allowed to do that in Yom Tov. He would say the reason I'm doing it is not to fix the bowl, but it's simply because I want to find somewhere to store the garlic. Now storing garlic in the bowl, there's nothing wrong. So that's what he used to tell people. I'm storing the garlic in the tap of the bowl, and in that way, he would, by the way, fix the tap that it will leak. V'omma, he would say, I'm doing it in order to put away my garlic. He would sometimes go to sleep on Shabbos afternoon in a boat. And what happened was, you're not allowed to go on a boat on Shabbos. Anybody know I'm not allowed to go on a boat on Shabbos? Why can't you go boating on Shabbos? No, it's not actually the Gemara says. I hear the cheshbon. Why perhaps? The reason is you'll break off things in order to make yourself float. But this person wanted to cross the river because he wanted to look and watch over his crops. And the only way to do is cross the river. So what he used to do is he used to say, I'm going to sleep. And where would he go to sleep? On the boat. And he would know that the person would eventually cross with the boat, cross the river. And that way he would get to the other side without any problems. So what he would do is, when Noam would go to sleep in the boat, and that way he would cross the river, the side pay and watch over his fruit. But he would say, I'm just trying to go to sleep for my Shabbos afternoon rest. I'm not interested in crossing the river. And that's how he would do it, by the way. Kind of a trick. Talmud Chacham is allowed to do lechatchila that which is only not clearly an issa. And this is important. We had on Shabbos, we had the Gemara says many different things which are asa because there's no Talmidei Chachamim around. And Talmud Chacham is allowed to take certain shortcuts because we know that he'll do it right. The Gemara elsewhere tells us that the person was once a chassid, that he saw that the fence had broken, so he decided not to build it, fix it, and a big tree grew there, and from it he became very wealthy. That means, of course, one is allowed to do these things. But of course, a bit of chassidus is not to do it. That means, for example, let's say you want to buy a property on King's Road, And what happens is you haven't had the chance to look at it. Now you're going strolling down King's Road, and nobody knows that you're looking at this house to buy it. Why? Because a lot of people are strolling along King's Road on Shabbos afternoon. It's fact that people are going up and down the road or any other road. So then you're allowed to. Yeah, as long as you're walking past. If you go into it and start to investigate, where people can see that you're looking to buy it, it's no good. But to walk past, that is permitted. Yeah, because they used to do it properly. They used to actually go to the properties and see what needs to be fixed. Says the Mishnah, you're allowed to put water over sediments in order that they should clear up. I mean, what happened was you'd have a lot of sediments and you'd pour water, and from there you would get more wine from the sediments. You're allowed to sieve wine with cloths over kfifa mitzvahs and a basket made out of palm trees. The Gemara describes all these halachas in detail. It means sieving is usually forbidden. Here we permit it b'derech shinui. When there is in Beitzim Sanena Shalchada, you're allowed to put an egg through a sieve of a mustard. Where is now numlin b'Shabbos? You're allowed to make a numlin on Shabbos. More describe what a numlin are. Rabbi Yehuda b'Shabbos b'kois. On Shabbos you're allowed to make 1 cup. B'Yom Tov b'Lagin you're allowed to make a lug. Over Moed on Chol Moed b'Chavis you're allowed to make a barrel full. So the Gemara Kulif it depends how many guests you have. So this and numlin is a problem of the dechol. It shows that you're getting too busy. So the question is, how much you're allowed to do? So the Gemara says it depends how, according to him, it depends how many guests. Tanakh says allowed to make as much as you want. Rabbi Yehuda says it's limited depending if it's Shabbos, Yom Tov, or Chol Hamoed. So the Gemara says like this: you're allowed to put clear wine and clear water in the sieve, and you're not choshesh. If they're dirty, not. And this is important halacha. Discussed it actually once before. That when something needs sieving, you're not allowed to sieve it. If it doesn't need sieving, then you are allowed to sieve it. So therefore, when you've got wine which is full of sediments, then you're not allowed to sieve it because a person won't drink it otherwise. It's boil. But if you anyway can drink it and you're just putting it through the sieve, your extra pleasure that way, that is permitted. And that's why it says it's permitted only if it is clear. Going back to our Mishnah, which says you're allowed to, there's machlokas is showing him what's the heter in our Mishnah. Some say our Mishnah is indeed talking about clear wine, meaning wine which you can drink without sieving. Only because there's a bit of dirt inside it, it's in between these two stages. It's not properly needs sieving. It's not properly not needs sieving. Therefore, you're only allowed to do it b'shinui. What's the shinui? Is that you're allowed to use a basket or a cloth, which is not the normal way to sieve things. So therefore, we're talking about sieving something which needs a bit of sieving, which will only allow you to do a banal shinui. And some say we're talking about something which doesn't need sieving at all. So why is our Mishnah talk about doing it in a basket and in a cloth? Why not talk about using a normal sieve? The answer is, it's a chiddush, because you might have thought using a cloth would be choshesh for schita, or if you use a basket, it looks like uvda dechol. K'mashmalon that it's okay. So Ma'aseh again, this is how we pass them, that if you need to sieve it, you're not allowed to sieve it. But if you don't need to sieve it, you are allowed to. A person is allowed to stir a bowl of wine. It's wine and the sediments. After you stir it, you can put it through a sieve and you don't have to worry. So you see, you're allowed to sieve something which even has sediments. Answers interesting thing, that in the time when the people would be pressing the wine and the wine hadn't yet settled, so then what would happen is that the wine people would be desperate to drink wine, and they would drink it even with the sediments. They were so keen to drink wine that they would just drink it even with the sediments. So at that kind of stage, people didn't care that there were sediments. Since people didn't care there were sediments, therefore you're allowed to actually sieve it. But you see that people drank it even without sieving it, so therefore you're allowed to sieve it. That kind of stuff. You mustn't make a hollow. The way to really sieve properly is you take a cloth across a barrel, and in the middle you make like a hollow dent in the side, and it looks like a pit. And in that way, all the sediments gather there, and in that way you can sieve it better. But that is forbidden because that looks like too much uvda dechol. Because that's uvda dechol. Rashi says one reason is uvda dechol. Rashi says another reason is because that way you're more likely to squeeze the cloth, and that is forbidden schita. ובכפיפה מצווס, אומר בחיר ברש"י אומר רב, ובעד שלי הגביע מקרקעיסה של כלי טפח. You mustn't lift up from the floor of the keli a tefach. That means, what happens is a tefach is like a tent. If you've got a basket and underneath it there's a gap of a tefach and the width of a tefach, you've made a tent. So you mustn't do that. Omar Rav, hyper vanka, a cover made out of rags. A palgete kuba shomi. On half a bowl it is mutter. A kule kuba also. On an entire bowl it is forbidden. Why? Because of oil. This is a very interesting thing that Rashi says, that you're not allowed to make a tent over a bowl. So let's say you've got a big bowl and you cover it with a cloth. So then that is considered the oil. According to Rashi, if you've got a very, very big cholent pot and you put a lid over it, why are you not chayshush for oil? Why is no problem of oil on a pot? So the Mishnah Berurah actually talks about it. And the Mishnah Berurah says there's a difference between a keli, a pot, and a bowl. A bowl looks like a tent. People sometimes it's a very big bowl. It looks like a place where a person can store things, etc. A pot is not really made for storage. It's made for cooking and whatever you need to do with it. Other Rishonim are chiluk and Rashi, and they say there's no problem of oil on a bowl. The problem over here is simply because it looks like uvda dechol when you make the effort of spreading a cloth across an entire bowl. Omar Papa, le'nehadik inish tzinaisa b'pumi dekuzni dechavisa. A person shouldn't fill up and stuff a jug of a barrel, the mouth, the opening, with straw. Let's say you need to sieve. So what you do is you take a jug, and sometimes you have these jugs, but they've got little lines at the end. So when you pour out the water, if there's ices inside it, so therefore what happens is the ices can't come out. Now what happens is, says the Papa, that if you've got this kind of jug and you stuff the whole of the jug with a lot of pieces of straw and bits of wood, then that is a sin. And that is forbidden because of boiva on Shabbos. If you're a Papa in the house of a Papa, no, if you're making this, that jug. I was just trying to use an example of what kind of thing. No, I'm talking about where one which got open spout and you stuff the spout with these pieces. When they would have beer and they would want to sieve it, what they used to do is like this. They used to pour it very, very gently. When you pour something gently, the sediments stay in the first bottle and they don't go into the second bottle at all. And that's not boiva because you're not actually separating anything, because the sediments stay with the liquid, and that's okay. The mice at the bottom of the jug, there's always going to be a tiny amount of drops which are mixed up with the sediments. So now what happens is, when you would pour it, and at the end of it, you would be doing boiva, because to get those drops out of the sediments, the only way to do it is to do it very, very carefully, and that would be boiva. So you're right, the first 3/4 of pouring it is not boiva, but the last bit would be boiva. Our Papa used to produce beer, so he would just throw it in the bin. He never used to bother sieving the last drops. What he used to do is he used to just pour the 90%, and then the last 10% he would throw it out. So therefore there was no problem of boiva. Okay. But notice in Beitzim Mesanenis, you can put an egg in a sieve. If you should they would do it only for coloring. So let's see the top of Rashi, because this Rashi is not an easy one in halacha. Rashi says like this: it means what happened was, if you want to make your mustard look nice, you want the yellow part of the egg to come into the mustard, because that gives it a yellow color. The white part of the egg is not a good color, right? It doesn't add color to mustard. So they'll make the yellow go first. If you ever have to remember what's the white and what's the yellow, chelboin is the white. It's the word cholov, milk. Milk is white. So chelboin did not add to the color, but the chelboin did. There's no boiva over here. Why? because both of them are useful. Only the only thing you did it is for the color. So the Rishonim asked the question, so what? But for this person, he needs the yellow. Since he needs the yellow, because he wants it for the color, so for him, it is boiva. So some of the Rishonim argue with Rashi, and they say that what would happen is the yellow and the white would go through. It would just go slowly, first the yellow, then the white. And because of that, it wasn't boiva, because at the end of the day, you weren't separating. It's like just choosing, let's say you're pouring out your chicken soup, you've got knedlach inside, you pour the chicken, first comes out the soup, then the knedlach, you're not separating one from another. You just prefer that the soup should fall into the bowl first, that's not a problem. But the Rashi's explanation, they say like this, the Rashi holds that when two things are equally good, and it's not a real advantage over one over the other, then there's no problem of boil. They compare it a little bit. So some Jews got, let's say, big pistachio nuts or small pistachio nuts, or big piece of chicken, small piece of chicken, but there's no boil. Because at the end of the day, it's the same min. Since it's the same min, it's just a matter of one's bigger, one's smaller. That's not a problem of boil.
Isn't he anyway pushing the yellow first?
He's pouring the egg through a sieve, and that makes the sieve has a mechanism that allows the yellow to go through first and only then the white.
Anyway, because he wants the yellow. Even if he wants the yellow.
I don't know if he's eating it straight away. Since not eating it straight away, it's a problem of boil.
Means physically eating, it means what he wants out of the.
No, it means you have to use it straight away. It doesn't have to. You have to use it. Like if you take a pair of socks, what you want to wear now. Itma. We've learned. This is now discussing making a mixture on Shabbos. Chalda, I can see here you have Yossi more speaking. What's the Shabbos? It's very, very good. Because Imam mentioned these kinds of halachas is very thing. And he wants to tell you that people often don't realize how chomer it is to make a mixture on Shabbos, like wheat mix or milk for the children. And unfortunately, these halachas, they're quite delicate, the differences. We'll see over here. And translating the differences from the Gemara to the differences of today is it's a shame the Gemara talks about mustard, which we never make. And we have to then interpret it to wheat mix. Itma, chaldal shalosh me'erev Shabbos. Chaldal, mustard, which you already needed it on Friday. And the next day, you need to mix it even more to make it more of a good paste. The next day, you could do it with a keli, not in the hand. Now, the Gemara explained that it's better, means you make a better consistency with a hand. Right? That is, it makes a better paste. So therefore, you're allowed to do it with a keli, not with a hand. Do you do it every day with a hand? Do donkeys eat it? Mustard is eaten by human beings. Things which are eaten by human beings, people don't do with a hand, people do with a keli. So therefore, what's the normal way? With a keli. You can do with a hand, not with a keli. That means here we have a situation where the better way of mixing it is with a hand. The normal way of mixing it is with a keli. Why? Because people mix it with a keli because they don't want people to get put off the food. You don't want people to see you mixing the mustard and the mayonnaise together or something, and then after serve, nobody's going to eat it. But on the other hand, you will make a better paste like that. So according to Shmuel, the Ikka Shinu is to do it differently than you do it from the week. According to Rav, the Ikka Shinu is that what you should do is do it in the worst manner. I mean, the question is, what's better? To do a Shinu in the manner or to do a worst method? The Gemara says, it's both ways are forbidden. Both ways are permitted. The Allah is not like the mutter, rather it's forbidden. Rabbi changed his mind and he passed like Rabbi Loza that both are awesome. Rabbi Loza should say to Shmuel, Rabbi Loza then changed his mind and he passed like Shmuel that you can only do it with a hand. Abai and both are forbidden. That means Abai and Rava both held were forbidden. Only when Rabbi Yechon said they're both mutter, so they said we don't pass like Rabbi Yechon. When Rabbi Yechon said they're both asa, they said, oh, we pass like this. Aimei de Abai, the mother of Abai, or the wetness of Abai, because he never had a mother, he never saw his mother. Of the lay, she made it for him. He never ate it because he held that it's forbidden, as he said himself. The Bisad is the Evi. The wife of Zeir, of the Lechir Barashi, she made it for Barashi, but Yochel never ate it. And made it for your Rebbe, but V'ochel and he ate it, you don't want to eat it. He was more machmin than Zeir. Zeir held was mutter, but he forbade it. I stirred it with a stick of garlic, V'ochel and he ate it. So you can see that he held that it's okay to do it with a stick of garlic. So therefore, he held that that's okay. That's the Vinna held it's okay. We don't pass like any of these. You're allowed to add, mix it either with your hand or with a keli. You're allowed to put inside it honey, but a yitrif. You mustn't stir it vigorously. You're only allowed to do it gently. And but rather you can mix it. Shachlaim kves, sheshochem ne'ev Shabbos, that you grind them on Friday. You're allowed to put inside it shemen v'chomer, oil and vinegar. And you're allowed to add a miso, which more later is going to tell us is a kind of mint flavor. But a yitrif, and again, you mustn't beat it, and you mustn't stir it vigorously. But you should mix it gently. Shum, garlic, shviskim ev Shabbos. You're allowed to add beans and split beans. But you're not allowed to grind. You can mix it to mamshich samisa leseichon, and you can add a misa to it. My misa ninya, which is a mint. Ninya mint is good for cress. I always like it when Rashi uses a French word which is similar to the English word. If you look over here in Rashi talks about shachlayim. He says kvishon, which is cress, and he talks about amisa. He says minta, which is mint. If you look in Rashi actually brings the English word for it, cress and mint. The Gemara over here is discussing different kinds of mixtures, which nowadays we don't really do. What we do, Paskin, is that you're allowed to do it if you have lechatchila. You want to do it the best way. This is the correct way to do it. To make a mixture on Shabbos, let's say you need to make baby cereal. You should do 3 things. You should do belila rako. That's a loose mixture. And with baby rice, I've done it many, many, many times. It's not so easy. It's a very difficult thing because what happens is you add liquid and you think it's going to be a loose mixture, and within a very short time, the mixture gets very, very thick. So you have to do it a loose mixture. Secondly, you should do it b'derech shinu, the opposite of what's the normal way of doing it. Most people put baby rice, then add liquid. What you should do is add liquid and then put in the baby rice. And third of all, you should stir it b'shinu. The reason is because belila rako is awesome in the Rabbanon, belila ova is awesome in HaTorah. So belila rako, b'derech shinu is permitted. So if you do those 3 things, that is the correct way to do a mixture for your child on Shabbos. What's numlin? These are numlin? These are lintis. And numlin is yain with vash pulpulin, is wine, honey, and pepper mixed together. And luntis is yain yoshon, old white mime swilim, clear water of a kind of scent, a kind of a psalm, a kind of nice smelling, fragrant liquid. The Ovdi the Bay Misusa, they would make it for the bathhouse, and they make it to cool down. I went to the bathhouse with my okra. When I came out, they gave me a cup of this, 1 cup of this liquid, which old wine with clear water and a falsamoin, to cool me down. I felt the cooling down from the hair of my head until the nails on my feet. The cooling down went right through my body. If I had another cup, I'll be scared. I'd lose my schusim in the next world. Rashi says that it's so dangerous because it cools a person down so much that you have to be saved only through a miracle. So therefore, every time a person has a nest, he loses chusim in Shemayim. So Bach used to tell us every time with Azmanim, as the speedometer goes up, the dial of the amount of chusim we have goes down because it's nice, it's chusim. The person has to be very careful not to be. You have to be careful. So you would say that if I would have had the second cup, I would have cooled down so much I could have lost my schusim. The other Mephosh would say, the Marshal says a very interesting thing. He says that this cooling down after a bath was such great pleasure that I would have lost my Gan Eden by using it up in this world. The person should be careful not to use up too much pleasures in this world because you use up the schusim in the next world. Not like Rashi. What? It says menakulum is chusa. They would minus from my schusim, but it doesn't mean that they would get rid of it completely. They would minus some my schusim. He writes that the Ramak, that every time a person gets covered, he loses a lot of his chusim Gan Eden. He says it's very expensive. A person should be careful not to get too much covered. The Gemara says, "Ma'ukva will drink this every day." So how can you say that it's so bad for you? As well, Shani Ma'ukva the doshbei He was used to it, and since he was used to it, therefore it didn't cause him any harm. It says, go back. You're not allowed to soak chiltis in warm water, which they used to do as a refuah. But you can put it into vinegar. Krishinin is a kind of straw, vetch, it's called in English, which you do your best. You want to get rid of the shaf. So there's different methods. So the Mishnah says you're not allowed to put it into water, and that way it would make the shaf float, and you'll be able to get the grain. That's forbidden. You're not allowed to rub them to get rid of the shaf. You can store it inside a sieve or inside a basket. And when you store it in the basket, what would happen is the shaf would fall off by itself. So here you were not doing boira. What you were just doing is storing it in the basket, and the shaf would fall away by itself. You're not allowed to sieve straw in a sieve. You should put it on a high place. So that way the straw should blow away. That's one pshat. Or that the grains should fall down in a way that way you can sieve it. Let's say, for example, you want to feed your cow, and you want to at the same time sieve your grains. What you could do is take a big basket, pour the grain into the basket with the shaf and everything, and then, or with a sieve, and then walk with it to feed the cow. When you go and feed the cow, what will happen is, as you're walking, automatically parts of it will be sieved. And that is permitted. Again, a lot of these is similar uvdin dechol. And uvdin dechol, when a person doesn't show that he's doing it as uvdin dechol, he's not showing that he's doing it as a weekday, but he's doing it by the way while he's trying to feed the cows and other things, that is permitted because a person, the Chazal only forbade that person on Shabbos shouldn't get busy with his weekday activities. But here, these weekday activities are happening by the way. What happens if a person soaks it? Is it also b'doraisa or is it also b'dorabanan? Tirgum of Adana Shor Kaved Rabbi Yosef Shor Chayav Chatos is also min haTorah. Omla Bailam Hatos Shor Umtze b'may, if you soak raw meat in water. You're going to be chayav? Of course not. A person not chayav raw meat. The Ritva explains that it doesn't really mean that's any similarity. There is no similarity. It just means that just like that's permitted, this is permitted. It makes no sense. And it's rather it's also because of the rechol to soak it in warm water, but not because it's awesome in haTorah. Allowed to soak chiltis in cold water. Also, it is forbidden. You're not allowed to soak it in warm water, but you're allowed to soak it in cold water. Said to me as follows: what's the difference between me and you? Meaning like this, that if you think that you can work out Pshat in the Mishnah by yourself, then why do you need me as a Rebbe? The difference between you and me is that I can explain to you the Mishnah in a way that you never understood it till now. What? The Maslis in Yechidohi, that even though you're right, that our Mishnah says you're not allowed to soak it in warm water. But in cold water, you're allowed to. But from our perspective, I can tell you that's wrong. That our Mishnah is only actually just Yechidah. The Tanya in Shiur is loy b'chavan v'loy b'tzeinan. Rabbi Yosef b'chavan also b'tzeinan mutar. So you're not allowed to soak it, not in hot, not in cold, and that's how we paskan. They're not allowed to soak it. And here we have a machlokes in the Rishonim why exactly the issa. Either because it's a kind of medicine, and therefore it's also because of darker refuah, or it's also because of uvda dechol, it looks like a weekday activity. Lemay of delay, why would they do it? Leyukur deliba, because if a person has a heavy heart, person that have heartache, this would be very healthy, chiltis in cold or warm water. Also came to Ma'ukva. Omalei, zilshti, go and drink, tilasa tikli chiltosa, but tilasa yomi. Drink the weight of 3 shekel of chiltis for 3 days. That means he gave him an understanding that the way to get better is that he has to have it for 3 days on the run, every day drinking a small amount of chiltis. Ozal, he went, Ishti, drank chamsha b'Shabbos u'mali Shabbos. He drank it on Thursday and Friday. Let's say when he came to Shabbos morning, Ozal shor be'medrasha. That means he had a heavy heart. He came to ask the din. What should he do for his heart? He was told to drink chiltis in warm water Thursday, 3 days. And he ended up drinking it Thursday, Friday. Amulei, they said to him, She's Adam Kavi Kabayim, and she's allowed to drink it on Shabbos. There's no problem. Why is there no problem drinking it on Shabbos? Because even though it is a medicine, some people who are hungry would also drink it just for hunger. So it wasn't considered only a medication. I never had any question that you could drink it. To prepare it, what's the din? I didn't know. I went to ask Avuna, you have to soak it in cold water and then leave it in the sun that it should get warm. Oh, that's what I was going to ask in a minute. But the Maaseh, he said what you should do is soak it in cold water, which we said is machlikas and never allowed to, and then to warm it up, leave it in the sun. It says, well, Commander Shoy, is it only according to Manama that it's permitted? Madam machlikas before. We never drank it. Given the Ishti, he drank it on Thursday and Friday. If he didn't drink it on Shabbos, it would be dangerous for him. So over here, this is a very, very famous Gemara brought down in Halacha, and this Gemara tells a very interesting thing. That if somebody was to come on Shabbos and ask us, can we drink chiltis, prepare chiltis, what would we say to him? No, you're not allowed to. Why? Because it's not dangerous. It's not dangerous. But if somebody has it on Thursday, Friday, and now he asks us, can we have it on Shabbos? Then we say, yes, you're allowed to. Why? Since he had it Thursday, Friday, if we stop him having it on Shabbos, oh, very good. So people use this heter for antibiotics. That if you started a week of antibiotics, so that if you started before Shabbos, then you're allowed to continue on Shabbos. There was once a Dan Steiner in the Western, and the people were calling him up before Pesach. And it's different. And he said to me that his Rebbe, I forgot his Rebbe's name, Cohen, what was his first name? What's his first name? It was a big Rebbe he had in that song. He used to say that even all heart medication which people have, even if they've got chashash chametz, you can continue taking. You have to ask your local Orthodox rabbi these kinds of questions. Allowed to continue taking them on Shabbos. Why? Because changing medication is very, very, very dangerous. Oh, I was just about to say, this is a very interesting thing. Our poskim, the Shabbos brings it, that the Gemara Dafka talk about when you started Thursday, Friday, Shabbos. If you started Friday, it's no good. And there's another spanner in the works, which I don't know how to, not everybody holds this, or Shabbos also mentions, is if you look over here, what does the Gemara say? Mistaken, let's get dangerous. Dangerous usually the Gemara means the sakonos nefashos. So let's say a person starts a course of antibiotics, it has to be that there's real danger. But again, regarding both of these things, they hold that it is, the poskim, they hold that it is mutter. Now, bishleima, if you say that it is dangerous, you can understand the heter. What is the heter? That even though you're not allowed to take medication on Shabbos, you're allowed to take it before Shabbos because it's a weekday. And once it comes into Shabbos, for me to stop it is dangerous. Now it's the sakonos nefashos. But if you say that we're not talking about danger, so what exactly is the heter over here? And the Rishonim that are meikol, and they say like this: why are we not allowed to take medication on Shabbos? You might come to make it, and what's one making it? You might come to do shchika samamon. The Chazal were only choishesh if you're starting the medication on Shabbos, because since you start the medication on Shabbos, you want to prepare it and get into it. But once you already started your medication before Shabbos, Chazal were not concerned anymore. And according to that, it doesn't matter if it's dangerous. Even if it's not dangerous, it's permitted. And even if you start on Friday, you don't need to start on Thursday. So again, all these questions, you always have to find a Rav. It's good to have one more stick to ask these questions. But this is where the Gemara, this is one of the main sources of this big heter, is that the Gemara over here tells us clearly that chiltis is forbidden on Shabbos. But because obviously it's not that important to eat it, because if it was important, you'd be allowed to. Chiltis is forbidden. But if you started it earlier, then it's permitted. And from here we see that medication which is started earlier is permitted. How far we take that, even if it's not dangerous, Thursday, Friday, that is something which is a machlekes in the poskim. And again, you have to find, depending on the situation. I remember with one of my children, the doctor wanted them to take an eye drop. It wasn't really dangerous. So what happened was, I spoke to Bob, he said to me, he said, what you should do is wait. You have to take it for a week. And he gave it to me on a Friday. There wasn't no urgency. So wait till a Wednesday, and then you can have it 3 days before. Like, don't start on a Friday thing. Wait till the next week. You don't have to wait. Start on Sunday and then take it for a week straight. Because then that way you gain that you're not starting it one day before you start it a few days. Okay. Says the Gemara. Yosef was very old, couldn't walk properly, so he was leaning on his nephew, Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. And there's a sefer called Seder Adoros, where he works through all the Gemaras and Shas, and he makes chronological and who's related to who and how they're related. And I was very, very, very spoiled. Called Bechila Halpern. He only lived about 200 years ago. And he managed with all these Gemaras to work out who's related to who. Right, you've got all these stories of who married who and how they're related. Many times, very, very hard. And to book to remain a Jew, he writes about Mitzvah Zilber with tremendous spilus that how can a person have done such a thing? It's a monumental work. To work through all these Gemaras, you remember that he was a nephew of him, and he writes that he went to his cave, and the Germans in Shimon did their very best to destroy it. And they took 3 soldiers that tried to destroy it. One killed himself in the process. That means one took an axe and rebounded, killed him. The next 2 got injured, and they left his cave, and it's still there. Read Yehuda Steinberg, he talks about it. What's really nice things about that book is he talks about a lot of other tzaddikim, not just about himself. So he says that Chil Halpern, it's not such a long time ago, 200 years ago, to have written such that's unbelievable. Anyway, so now you'll remember forever that Acher bar Yosef was the uncle of Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. Both of them come a lot in Gemara. Omalei, he said, on the Beir of Safa, and now you'll also remember that Safa lived at that time. When I go to Safa's house, Alina, help me get in. Kimotu Aile, Boimine, Maulik is Kusei Kitnosa b'Shabbata. This is a hard shaila. Are you allowed to rub a shirt together? Let's say you get a shirt. Oh, so what happens is you want to make it look extra nice. Can you rub the shirt together? So what's the shaila? The reason you rub it is just to make it soft. The Shabbat, there's nothing wrong with making a shirt soft. You want to make it clean and white. When you rub a shirt against each other, it looks much whiter. But also, that's okay, there's nothing wrong. Kinofak, when he managed to come out, this is Rav Acher bar Yosef. Also, what did you ask him? I asked him, are you allowed to rub a shirt against each other by Shabbos? It's okay. He says, why did you ask him about a hat? Are you allowed to rub part of your hat against the other part of the hat? So he said to me, a hat never had a shaila. Rashi's gilsa was that of course it's forbidden. You're definitely not allowed to rub a hat. If a hat is forbidden, so too it should be also to do a shirt. That means certain things by a hat, everybody knows the reason you rub a hat is to make it white, and therefore it's forbidden. By a shirt, it's not so clear if you're doing it to soften it or to make it to whiten it. And the more we have paskins that by a shirt it's to soften it, it's mutter. By a hat it's forbidden because you're doing it to whiten it. And again, you've got these shayes and poskim, different things that you can do. If you take a piece of feather off your shirt, or you're doing it, that could be also because you try to make if you want to make your shirt white and things like that, which are forbidden. It's hard to. This shirt, whenever you get your shirt back from the dry cleaners, then what they do is, they put a stick inside it, right? So that's what they do. You put a cardboard thing to make it a hanger. But it's not just a hanger. You put a piece of cardboard to make it stiff. So the shaila is this stick inside it. What's its status? So now the stick was used afterwards. What do you do with a stick afterwards? You use it for firewood. So for its muktzah. So if you're not allowed to take the stick out, but you are allowed to take the shirt off the stick. So you're not allowed to take the stick off the shirt, but you're allowed to take the shirt off the stick. And that's what Moses says, B'shalpli didomi kanya, to take the shirt off the stick, shari. Kanya mino, but to take the stick off it, also, because it's muktzah. Omarova. If they use this stick as a weaver, meaning it's not for firewood, but rather it's used as a keli, mutter, then you're allowed to. In fact, Mishmor brings down these halachas. We don't believe Mishmor actually brings these halachas that if you get a new shoe, the Mishmor says, many times you get a new shoe, they give you something inside it to hold it in the shape. So if it's something which is never going to be used again, so then it's muktzah, so you have to take the shoe off the item. If it's something which can be used again, like some people use a horseshoe, I think it's called, what's it called? Shoe horse. So then you're allowed to always have it, because then it's not a problem, it's a proper keli. A bunch of vegetables. If an animal can eat it, show little tula. If not, it's forbidden. Show little tula. A string of meat is mutter. The kaviba of fish also is forbidden. Here we have three different explanations. Pshat in this Gemara. Rashi says that dried meat people eat, but dried salted fish nobody eats raw fish. Obviously, before sushi days. Since nobody ate raw fish, so raw fish is muktzah. Raw meat people eat, and therefore it's not muktzah. That's how Rashi says it. Yes, we had it. The Gemara says exactly the same thing. That salted fish, you don't even give it to your dogs. People don't eat it unless it's properly salted. But while it's raw, before it's edible, people don't eat it. Not them, not the dogs. And if it's muktzah. Tesis, which is printed on Daf Kuf Lamed Tes Amud Beis, it's got two different malachim, and he argues with the Rashi. Because if the Gemara over here was just trying to tell you that raw meat is not muktzah, because people sometimes eat raw meat, and raw fish is muktzah because nobody eats raw fish, then why talk about a string of meat and a string of fish? Just talk about a piece of meat and a piece of fish. So this has got two different explanations. One is that people use the strings of raw meat again and again. With raw fish, they don't, because the string which you hang the raw fish gets is disposable. Since it is disposable, so therefore it's not a keli. So the string is muktzah, it's muktzah machmas gufa. By meat, it's used again, so it's not muktzah. Then Tesis brings that Rabbeinu Chananel explains a whole different pshat, that fish have a very, very bad smell. Since that very bad smell, anything which you use to touch it becomes muktzah machmas mius. But meat doesn't have such a bad smell, so it doesn't become muktzah machmas mius. So either the Gemara over here has been telling us the din of muktzah machmas mius, or it's telling us that something which is disposable and it's never used again is muktzah machmas gufa because you never use it again. Or it's telling us that raw fish is inedible, but raw meat is edible. Omav Katina. Now we have a bit of a gadata, fascinating gadata. Let's see if we can get finished. Somebody stands in the middle of a bed which a couple normally sleep on. It's as if he's standing on the stomach of a woman, meaning it's a massive preachers because it reminds him of what they do in the bed. The Gemara says it's not asa, it's his mutter. So the priest can bring this down. That person should not check out other people's beds because it's an act of preachers. The Gemara now tells us a very strange Gemara. The Gemara gives us a lot of advice, which all of it seems very, very, very simplistic. So simplistic that it doesn't make sense that the Gemara should teach us such a thing. And everybody from the Ben Yehuda to the Maharal and the Marashah give us many different remozim. I'll just say a couple. When you buy vegetables, what should you buy? If you buy vegetables, you should buy very, very long ones, right? Cucumbers cost 50 pence a cucumber, a pound of cucumber. It makes no difference how long they are. So we should buy long ones. Why? The width is measured by a certain fixed width, and therefore they charge you according to the width of the vegetables. You get longer vegetables, you get more vegetables for a cheaper price. So the Ben Yehuda explains that vegetables is always a sign for humility. Why? Because vegetables grow very low on the ground. And he says that the more humility a person has, the longer he will live. And that's what Gemara says, get yourself long vegetables. If you have a vegetable, it will be long and you have a long life. If you buy a reed, you should buy long ones. The bundle you charge by the bundle makes no difference. You'll gain the length. That means if you buy reeds, you buy by the bundle. So the longer they are, you get it for cheaper. You're getting more for less of a price. And again, the Ben Yehuda says that a reed is a marshal not for humility, but for patience. Soft like a reed easily bends. It's a matter of patience. And the Gemara is teaching us that not only does humility give a person a long life, but patience also gives a person a long life. If a person can't afford bread, you shouldn't eat vegetables. Why? We shouldn't go it. Vegetables give you an appetite. So if you eat a lot of vegetables, you'll get hungry. So if you're very poor and you can't afford bread, don't eat vegetables because you'll get an appetite. Chista says, and no, when I was poor, I never ate vegetables. Why not? Because the Gemara explains, I never ate vegetables, not when I was poor, not when I was rich. Why? But you see, when I was poor, I never ate vegetables, but from the go, it gives a person an appetite. And since I was so poor, I couldn't afford food. So I never ate vegetables because it gave me an appetite. But when I was wealthy, I never ate vegetables. Why not? Instead of eating vegetables, I might as well meat because I could afford meat. So I never ate vegetables, not when I was poor, not when I was rich. When I was poor, because it gave me an appetite, I couldn't afford to eat. And when I was rich, because instead of eating vegetables, I ate meat. So the Marshal explains that the Gemara here is teaching us that a person has to learn to live within his means, and a person has to think carefully when you buy something whether he can afford it or not. That's what the Marshal says, very straightforward. The Vilna Gaon says a very interesting premise. He says that vegetables is a premise to philosophy, because philosophy is something which is very, very nice and very geschmack and very tasty to nibble at. And the Vilna said, I never ate vegetables means I never studied philosophy, not when I was poor, not when I was rich. What does that mean? Poor when he was not yet learned Torah. That means when he was young, when he hadn't yet had a chance to learn Torah. Rich when he learned Torah. When he was young, and therefore you could say to himself, he doesn't know much Torah, so let him at least enjoy a bit of philosophy to think. No, because philosophy gives an appetite, meaning he was scared he would get caught up in it, and he would enjoy it, and he would end up never learning Torah. And when he was old and ready to learn Torah, then he never ate it, because since then he had the wisdom of Torah. Instead of eating vegetables, he said, I might as well eat meat, meaning, instead of learning philosophy, let me learn a geschmack piece of Gemara. So therefore, he never learned philosophy, not before he learned Torah, and not after he learned Torah, because it was never worth it for him. Sorry, Leil Bissu Vikavi, he said, instead of eating vegetables, I would eat meat and fish. I missed out one word. Leil Bissu Vikavi, I would eat meat or fish. If he has no bread, the Mephoshim explain that he shouldn't eat a little bit of bread at a time. It doesn't satisfy you. Wait until you've got a proper piece of bread and eat it. Don't eat crumb by crumb. If he has got no bread, he shouldn't invite guests. My time he won't be able to give them a generous portion. Person's got no food and invite guests. It'd be very difficult for the guests. I would never start cutting my bread at the shtoy until I put my hand into the bowl. Until I found there was enough bread for the whole meal. That means what I would do is make sure that I've got enough bread for the whole meal, and then I would start my meal. If a person can eat barley bread, and eats wheat bread, why are you eating wheat bread, which is more expensive? Eat barley bread. A person can drink beer, and drinks wine. Is wasting. Why drink wine? Drink beer, which is cheaper. Looking after your body is more important than looking after your money, and therefore a person is allowed to drink wine even if he can't drink beer. The person is allowed to eat wheat bread even if he's got barley bread around. Person's got no oil. In those days they would wash their hands with oil. If you've got no oil, then what happens is if you look in the crevices of the ground, there's always little puddles of water. So you should wash your hands with those puddles. Mephoshim will explain it's like Maharal says very similar. That Hakadosh always wants to provide for everybody whatever they need, and therefore Hashem showed if you don't have oil, I'll make sure there's puddles. They should always have ways to wash yourself. If a Tam Tzachim needs to buy meat and he can't afford it, this been unkesh by the neck. The neck has three kinds of meat. It's got fatty meat, it's got very hard meat, and it's got thin meat. So if you buy the neck, you have all kinds of meat. The Maharal explains, again, it's to show the chesed of Hashem, that Hashem provides the poor people with all what they need in one piece of meat. And again, the Ben Yehuda says it's referring to when a person needs to learn Torah, he should split his Torah to three parts, Torah, Nevi'im, and Ksuvim. So, Torah, Mishnah, and Gemara. And he says, but if a person eats the neck, and he says the neck refers to Talmud Bavli, because that's the life of a person, then he has within it all Chumash, Mishnayos, and Gemara. He should, if buys shirts, listen with the Narabo, he should buy from Pitkin Haba, but the Chava Kotos in Yemen, he should wash it every 30 days. It will last for a year. If you buy the shirts from that place, which is good quality, and you wash it every 30 days, I guarantee, but not Alvo, I will guarantee that it will last for a year. If you look after the shirts from this place, I guarantee it will last a year. My good nicer. Why is good nicer? Kita no, a nice group. A person who wears a nice shirt shows a certain respectability. Yes? What? Shows it. So you guaranteeing it lasts a year? It doesn't last a year. Okay, we're here guaranteed it a year. You shouldn't sit on a new mat. The mechalia money ruins your clothes. If you sit on a new mat, since it's new, it's got a lot of fluff on it and it gets attached to the clothes and it ruins it. A person who lives in a host shouldn't use the same host to have them wash the clothes. Why? To wash them. It's not derech eretz. It's the mechazeh bei midi. Unfortunately, explain, you might see zera, but also the migne, and it shall come to be disgraced. The Talmid Chacham, he might come ba'oinus, and the host will feel that this Talmud Chacham was not a real Talmud Chacham, and it'll be disgraced in her eyes. Others say, other Mephoshim, that what will happen is that it will, that she'll think that he's thinking of her, etc. Okay. Chisda said to his daughters, "Have it niyosim b'apik you should be bait near stick in front of your husbands. Don't eat bread in front of your husbands, because if you eat like a glutton, Rashi says, then they'll get put off. Don't eat vegetables at night, because it gives a bad breath. Don't eat dates or beer at night. Rashi says because it causes diarrhea and to flatulence, and therefore it will be putting off for the husband. You shouldn't go relieve yourself, or your husbands relieve yourself again. You shouldn't put off your husbands. When somebody knocks on the door, don't say in the male words, who is he, and mani, who is she. A person should assume that no man will be knocking on the woman's door, but should imagine it's a female visitor. Then in English, it doesn't really work so well, does it? Who is it? No. No. Rashi says, man is Lashon Nekeva, me, he. Who is she? Because nowadays, women would visit women. You wouldn't expect a man. I don't know how well it works in English. The next part of the Gemara is very tznistic Gemara, but it will say with Derech Remez, you should let your husband touch the pearl with one hand, the kura and the pit with one hand. You should let your husband touch the pearl, the kura, but the whole don't. Add them down until they get very pain, meaning they get tremendous desire. Rashi explains, the Foshim explains that b'shas tashmish, you want that the husband should have a lot of taiva. So therefore, what you should do is you should reveal certain parts of the body and the other parts of the body not, in order to increase the desire. So in that way, it should then, Chazal say that way there should be a proper zera. The Mashal explains that way should become expected. You're not allowed to soak rishon to separate them. You're not allowed to use a sieve at all. He holds that you're not allowed to use a sieve even to transport stuff, even though while you're transporting it, the shaft falls by the way. He holds even for transporting, it is forbidden. He did a very lot of halachas. I have to admit, this particular period is hard, because what happens is the Gemara is telling us a lot of halachas, and interpreting how it's negea to us is a tremendous challenge. But we managed to do quite a bit, Baruch Hashem. I like this Gemara about the Vilna Gaon's pshat in the night and the vegetables, because it's gnashing. You think that when the person got no to, there's Rav Yosef, Ben. You can see Rav Yosef, not Yossi or Joe. What did you call him? Sorry, I forgot what you called him. I know you called him Yosef Chaim, but he said Joey. That's not. Tell him that if he listens carefully, he can remind us from what he learned from the Malach. What's the words for it? He can tell us what the real pshat of the Gemara is. Say that. Okay, Atzlach everybody. So tomorrow night we're going to try and start 5 to 8 and finish 5 to 8. Now I just want to get to the Mishnah. Any questions? How are you? It's nice to see you. How are you doing?
Okay. Fine, thank you. Hashem, you all right?
Yeah, Baruch Hashem. I think of you every so often, and the fact that we're going a bit further ahead, I know that you're comfortable. I'm sorry about it, but the others do like it, so it's always a try. It's always a balance. Everything's in balance. Very good. Yeah, it's lacha with everything. It's lacha. Very good. Okay, very good night. See you. It's lacha. See you. That's it. Oh. Are you pretending, Ben, that you... Oh, okay. No.